Good and evil are created by the individual's daily struggle for life. The working man or woman, I'm using man in its classical sense here, still has the choice of struggling to be either moral, amoral, or immoral, and of defining those concepts. Through this struggle with others and their concepts of individual morality, good and evil are defined for the community, that in turn tries to control that individual struggle to avoid any disruption of the community's power structure, that power structure that it calls ethics. Many people will constantly preach about ethics and ethical duties, hide the is-ought, open question problem by poetic and mystical speech, like one of my favorites is, life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived, which only shows the sheltered existence they've lived or want to live. The working man knows that life is a problem to be solved. It is in trying to solve the problems of life that moral choices are created and decided. The first struggle is religion or no religion. Morality is still an ought argument. Just as the powers jump from is to ought for the entire society, in morality, the individual is jumping by an act of will from is to ought. Not only is one saying that I ought to live this way, but that all ought to live this way. If you just say that this is how I ought to live, but not necessarily others, it is not a moral choice. It is a personal routine or ritual that is no better than picking a style of clothes or wine. You may be a survivor by doing this, and your personal style or routine will let you survive, whether it's North Korea, Nazi Germany, or in the U.S., but being a survival and being moral are not the same thing. It is the ought. It is the jump from is to ought that is the substance of morality, differentiating it from all other choices. That is why it always has the is ought and open question problem. As pointed out by existentialist philosophers from Soren Kierkegaard to Friedrich Nietzsche and Albert Camus, once you remove God and religion, especially once you remove the concept of a altruistic or loving deity from the mix, anything goes as to what ought to be. There are some who try to create fake religions such as nature, law, science, or whatever, then hijack into them Christian virtues, but this is simply picking delusion over truth and eliminates, at a minimum, the virtues of honesty and integrity as one of the moral virtues. As Albert Camus said, integrity has no need of rules. Everything is permitted, is not an outburst of relief or of joy, but rather a bitter acknowledgement of a fact. What is the individual to do? That is the question of morality. In morality, there are essentially three choices, being moral, being amoral, or being immoral. The two choices of being moral or immoral are only meaningful in the context of religious belief. If there is a divine law that defines morality and you decide to reject or oppose that divine law, you have decided to be moral or immoral. The philosopher Kierkegaard describes the leap of faith or leap to fate that is necessary to give meaning to morality based on divine law. It is not an act of reason, it is an act of pure will. To deal with these religious concepts, I refer you to Kierkegaard's writing or to theologians who have written about him. Hopefully one will show up in some following episodes. However, philosophically, once you go down this road of religion, there is one thing that can be said is you can't pick all religions as equal, especially to equate a warrior master morality religion such as Islam to what some philosophers call slave morality religions such as Buddhism or Christianity. The leap to faith or leap of faith is supposed to be a leap to believing in a loving God to give meaning to life. A leap into a warrior religion is essentially no better than accepting an amoral existence or a master morality or politics as your God, as hopefully we will discuss in further episodes. This struggle to create and make a morality something that other people ought to have is a battle of wills, and the unfortunate reality is that the winner in the struggle between the individual moralities is by definition good, at least until another alternative wins. If Hitler had succeeded creating his 1,000-year right, or if Joseph Stalin had done the same thing 1,000 years from now, they would be worshipped as prophets of God in the same way that the warrior Mohammed is now worshipped as a prophet of God. For those who reject religion, the choices are either being amoral or of creating amorality. For existentialist philosophers such as Nietzsche, this choice consists of a master morality that is essentially being amoral, or of a slave morality. In the master morality, the individual is his own God. Slave morality is for those that do not want to be a God, but to follow one. In the face of the indifference of the universe to any ethics or moral, Nietzsche argues that the weak at best can create values such as kindness, humility, and sympathy, because this is what they need to get by in life, while the master morality of the strong values pride, strength, and ability. Albert Camus, truly a working man's philosopher, was much more sophisticated and subtle with his views. In the face of the indifference of the universe and the meaninglessness of ethics, Camus emphasizes that the individual has the option to rebel and create something, a morality by which to live. But while doing this, the individual always knows that in the end, the battle will be lost, but the absurd man still fights on. In essence, by this existentialist view, the slave becomes a god by accepting their fate as a slave of the universe and rebelling against it. The ending of his myth of Sisyphus is a great description of his moral battle and the happiness that it gives. He writes, the struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. The problem with existentialism is that there is no, nor can there be, any social theory such as ethics, justice, or anything other than individual choice. In the end, one must rely on the faith that the individual battles will create a social ethics that is good for humanity. So even for the non-religious existentialist, there is a leap of or to faith.